Cottage Country Insider podcast. It's been a while since we've had one. And when I started doing these, John, I didn't realize how much work they were. So, when I started, they're all eager. We'll have one once a week and all that. And then I think the last one we did was late last summer, where I talked to our mortgage person about interest rates and where we see interest rates going and all that. So at that point, we didn't really know. Inflation was still running pretty high. We've seen, I think the inflation number this week came out of 2.8, which was encouraging.
For sure.
Going the right way. Going the right way. It's just how that's going to kind of translate out into lower mortgage payments. And, one of the things that I've noticed, and this is the stuff that's not always published or gets in the news, is the fact that, right now, a 5-year fix, which is kind of the standard interest mortgage in Canada, is about a point lower now than it was last August, because we were dealing with people last year, 5.75, 5.8, 5.9. Now they're around 4.8. Yeah. So they're going the right direction. It's just how quickly that's going to kind of transpire. What do you think?
I think it'll take a lot to change the psyche of the buyer right now. I think a lot of them are a little bit scared. So it might take a bit more to shake them out of the woodwork. There's a lot of anxiety out there for sure.
Yeah, there still is. Well, we've been having conversations with the buyers, kind of the early spring market. I see some daffodils on your table there, side of spring. But they're looking at doing different things to kind of get through. I think the problem is you've got relatively higher interest rates right now, but you've got buyers looking at the market saying if things start getting going again, the prices are starting to go up.
Yeah.
So,
the buyers are dipping their toes back in for sure. And, you and I run heavy analytics, and, that's ramping up. So the buyers are starting to ponder. I think right now, though, there's a spread between what the buyers want to pay and what the sellers are sort of set at. I think that somebody's going to have to blink there in order to really get the ball rolling. I think demand will start to edge back, though, as long as the sell side comes to the party, with the same attitude. It'll be interesting to watch. Really interesting to watch. Yeah.
Well, and we're not seeing, and one of the first conversations we're having with anybody, especially the sellers, is the fact that you could take all the values that kind of happened during the height of the COVID market, which was kind of late summer, early fall 2021 to early mid-spring 2022, put them all in a nice Crown Royal bag, tie them up, put them on the mantelpiece, and just never look at them again, because we're just not seeing those values anymore. And you and I talk all the time as far as values coming down, and average values are always damn lies and statistics.
Yes,
it's hard to really quantify, but what I'm saying to people is, values are down, and depending on what you're buying, we're seeing some of the stuff down 20%. Vacant land's down a lot more than that, I think, from the peak.
Oh, absolutely. Vacant, peak to trough vacant is 35, I would say, conservatively down, and I'm kind of sticking to my guns with a tale of two markets. I think that the higher end stuff is still holding its own reasonably well, so in Perry Sound District, maybe stuff south of 1.5, I think it still might erode a little bit more. But what do you think it is peak to trough? What's your best estimate for sub?
If you took an average, if there is such a thing, an average waterfront cottage in the West Prairie Sound area, we're probably down still about 20 points.
Yeah,
from the peak, and that peak is a very, very narrow period of time, because we missed. That peak was we had a really busy late 2021, but a lot of the peak was kind of buried in the wintertime. Not a lot of properties transact here from kind of November through February. So it
Yeah,
insulated some people from those paying those some of those crazy values back
yeah.
in, when we started to see the that the end was nigh in this, and we all saw it. We all saw it 2022. We're
Yeah.
all calling people saying, if you're going to go on the market, this is the time to do it, because man, slow train coming. Like,
Oh yeah, yeah. And the thing is, a lot of people didn't listen. They thought it would go up forever, and it didn't. And here we are.
oh, run for the exits anytime they say that. Like,
Yeah, yeah. How are you finding for listing volume in the spring?
we're going to be good.
Yeah.
We just picking up another one. We just had a conversation with the client today. It's a property we're probably not going to be able to get into for 4 or 5 weeks, depending on when the snow goes.
Mhm.
But this will be right. The stuff that we like, that wheelhouse, under $1 million, three
Yeah.
bedroom winterized cottage, Westview, the whole thing. And those are the ones that get us excited. Those are the ones
Mhm.
that are, they're still in demand. And it's
Yeah,
just
it's a
getting the
tough.
price right.
Yeah, yeah. And how do you see that coming? Are people pretty open to the prices you're giving them? Yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. The one this morning is kind of, and I gave a range because I haven't seen it. I'm just basing it on Terranet data, and it was, and the pictures that they gave me, with
Mhm.
people's feet reading a book and all that on the sofa. So you're trying to figure out what's there. I'll give
Yeah.
them a pretty broad range, and it's usually, yeah, that's what we figured. I think
Yeah.
most people know that.
Yeah. I think right now it's very difficult for people that bought recently. It's easier if it's been a family cottage, they're more open to the price because it's still, umpteen times what it was worth a little while ago. It's the people that bought in the last 2 or 3 years. They're having a harder time with the reality of the market from what I've seen anyway, you know.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Nobody
Yeah.
likes to lose money. And
No.
if you have to sell because, I don't know, maybe your mortgage rate renewed and you're paying a lot higher payments.
Yeah, I just spoke to a lady about 20 minutes ago, exactly that scenario. She bought in August of 2021, so perilously close to the peak of the market.
Yeah,
And her advice from both her agent and her mortgage broker at the time was to go variable. And now they're in trouble. They have to sell this summer. And it's too bad. I mean, there's a lot of emotion involved. This was sort of their retirement plan, and it's up in smoke. I think she said her payments have just a hair more than doubled now, and that's
yeah,
in a short time. So in 2 years, 2.5 years, she's more than doubled her payments, and they just can't do it. They're both retired.
yeah. We had clients like that last year too, similar situation, but they're proactive, and that's, they're in a situation where they couldn't afford it anymore. You start getting into, retirement savings and things like that. And some of these people, you have
Mhm.
you have to you have to do it. It's,
Yeah, and they're better
you
to
know,
to bite it quick because better now the devil you know than down the road the devil you don't. I think.
oh
Um,
yeah.
yeah, it's
But
gonna.
but the interesting thing is, in doing this over the amount of years that you and I have done this, when things are going to start going south, we usually see, the storm clouds on the horizon. I'll get calls from lawyers, mortgage people saying, "Yeah, can you do a drive by 123 Main Street? You might be, we might have to, go power sale on a property." We have not been getting those calls.
Yeah, I
Banks
have.
are bending over backwards not to own real estate or have to, go power sale on real estate. So they will work with people.
I haven't had the power. I haven't had the banks calling. I have had lawyers calling for sure.
Yeah.
There's a lot of private money that went out there too.
Yeah.
So I think the people that are holding private paper are a little more jittery than the big banks. It's sort of the canary in the coal mine.
Yeah.
Their pockets are deep, but not that deep. So there's definitely a change in the air that way. But I've had no, as far as foreclosures, there's a few that are popping up on the system, but not a lot just yet, which
Yep.
is good. Which is good.
But as you said, we're gonna have some people this year that are motivated, and we're
Oh,
gonna have a lot. You know what? You know what I have been getting. I've been getting calls through the fall and through this winter with people that were listed last year
yes.
and nothing. They had nothing, like
No.
literally nothing.
Yeah.
And and it's like, wow, there was a water access one. It was September, and it's like, you probably have your docs out now. Yeah, it's like, well, we'll have that chat again in May. So we're
Yep.
gonna start getting some of those, couple on the bay, couple inland, that we've had discussions with, because I think the problem with a lot of real estate agents is they don't want to hurt people's feelings, and
Exactly.
it's like, man, our
Sugarcoat it.
job
They
is
sugarcoat it.
not that our job is to sell the property. If you
And to
list
sell
with
it like
me,
it is. The
yeah.
sugarcoating doesn't help anybody. It doesn't help
Oh
anybody.
no.
You know, I think I told you about that one in Rosso a few days ago. I mean,
Mm.
I mean, a
Oh yeah,
million
yeah,
dollar price reduction, $1 million price
yeah.
reduction, and not a showing. So obviously, the original price was not even in the realm of reasonable.
Well, and it's silly because you had without, and I don't want to get into specifics on the property,
Yes.
so people can start going on,
Yeah.
houses, whatever, and start working
Yeah.
these things out. But there was a comparable just down the street that sold
Hmm. Yeah.
for, oh my
Substantially
God, it
less.
was
Yeah.
substantially less.
Look
And
at
it's
that.
like all the person that had the listing had to do is look at that and go, well, it's gonna be around
Yeah.
that somewhere instead of doubling it. Like
That one on Vernon I was talking about on that Bloomberg interview that happened just before I went on air. That was an astounding example of, you know, a brutal decision to buy a cottage at a bad time. And they overpaid tremendously, of course,
oh yeah.
in the heat of the market. And then they had to sell. And I mean, they conservatively lost, 950 to just a hair over
Yep.
1 million bucks in a year and a half.
Yep.
Just, I mean, that's tough. That's tough.
A lot of people in that COVID market, especially that narrow piece of time, 2021, 22, made a lot of bad decisions.
Yeah.
And
And a lot of the realtors are to blame. They really are, because instead of calming people down and saying, think about this, they joined the frenzy.
yeah.
They really did. They didn't say, hey, pace yourself, uh, ponder this a little bit. And there's a lot of
Oh
money
yeah.
was
And
a lot of money going to be
we
lost.
heard we heard the crap too. Oh, this is going to go on forever. Blah 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 blah. It's
Yeah.
1.8% interest rates. My first interest rate was like 14 and a quarter. For God's sake, it's like no, this is
And
not
we
going to happen.
and what was disturbing for me was the amount of agents, not to pick on agents, but the amount of agents that don't know cottage country, that
Yeah.
came up and sold cottage country, not knowing a thing about the area or the lakes or septic systems or SRA. They do nothing, but they hold a license, and so up they jump in their car and they'll drive and sell a cottage on Manitowoc. They wouldn't know Manitowoc from peanut butter sandwich. So how can they
Yeah.
possibly
Yeah.
advise somebody on a $2 million cottage when they have no clue about it? They just don't.
And the conversations that we had with buyers, especially in 2021 into 2022 as well. But it's like, if this is a long-term buy,
Yeah.
this is a long-term buy, and you're gonna have for 20, 25 years. What you pay now doesn't mean as much as if we're gonna try it for 2 or 3 years and we don't like it and the kids don't come up. Big difference. And
Hmm.
maybe you shouldn't be buying in this market if that's what it is. But if you're buying in your late 30s and you're gonna have them until you're 70, doesn't really make a bit of difference what you pay for it now.
No. Yeah, that's a really good
And
point.
that's
Yeah.
so and I'm tend to be conservative by nature with these things, and
Hmm.
it's just, and we when we see these multiple offers happen, often, the agent that sold it, it's like, don't know who this person is. It's certainly not somebody local.
Yeah.
And yeah, and it's just, I don't
Yeah.
know. It was just,
You've got to know your market to advise your people. Like you just have
yeah.
to. Like you and I don't sell condos in Mississauga because we don't know condos
Oh
in
God, no.
Mississauga. You
Could be a
see,
subway
and
under it. I would have no
exactly, I have
idea.
no clue. It's the
No
same
idea.
thing in reverse. The same, but it's I don't think they're helping their folks out for sure. By
No, no. And I always deal with, my tenants. It's always deal with local people. Like, deal with locals. They know.
yeah, absolutely. So
But
yeah,
oh well, here
yeah,
we are, 2024, dealing with, the fallout from the
aftermath.
COVID market, and we're going to be dealing with this for a while.
Oh, it'll take a long time to flush out. Oh, it'll take two,
Uh,
3 years to flush this out. Absolutely, it will. Yeah,
oh, or longer. Like, if you look at the 1980, like the 89 crash, it took us. I always say it took us to about the late 90s, even 2000, to get back to normal. Well, that
yeah,
was
yeah.
completely different times and all that. Things tend to move a lot quicker now, but I think we're still going to be dealing with the results of this 4 or 5 years down the road. Yeah, like it's
So, what do you think the summer is going to be like? What's your
busy,
best guess? Yeah, yeah.
busy. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
we're already seeing it. Like, what do you
Yeah.
think? I think the spring's going to be busy too.
Yeah. I'm not as optimistic. I think
No, I
it'll
know.
be, yeah, I think there's definitely going to be some rough waters for a little while. I really think that it's going to take some time for those buyers and sellers to kind of settle out on where the prices should be. Once they do, I think it'll get busy because people still want cottages. I
Yeah.
mean, the demand side of the equation is there. It's just if the supply side is on board, basically. So once you hit that equilibrium, I think it'll be fine, but I think it'll be rough waters to then. I don't see a busy summer this year. I see you know, a leveling out this year myself. I think it might be a little bit busier than last year towards the end of the year. Um, I don't
But,
see a
but
busy market. Yeah,
but
we'll
we had a
see.
busy spring and we had a busy fall. It was the summer that wasn't busy. That was a weird thing for us.
Yeah, you probably ran the analytics the same as I did. The 12-month rolling on the listings is almost double what it was last year. So the listings are going the right way, on the in the bigger picture. Days on market have doubled. So
Oh
they're
yeah,
kind of going,
yeah.
so those are going, but it's back to where it was pre-COVID. So the
Yep.
days on market aren't abnormally high. It's just that they're double what they were when the world was crazy.
And I think we're going to see this year, probably what we saw last year. I always say it was like two markets last year. There was the market of people want to sell and the people that think it's still 2021 and their
Yes.
prices are here and you don't even pay attention to the stuff. Like,
No, no,
just
like
you
you and I have
summarily
talked.
dismiss it. Yeah.
Yeah, so much overpriced. I kind of ran some numbers to see how things were kind of falling into place. And I think it depends on the area and the price point, but about 2/3 of the cottages that have sold in the last 6 months have had price reductions. That's incredible. That 2/3 had to come down. So obviously they were overpriced for the time. If 2/3 had to come down.
Hmm.
That's a lot. And a lot of them had multiple price reductions. So it'll be the new listings coming in to see if they get it in the sweet spot or not. That and if their agents are going to be straight up with them and say this is where it needs to be in order to move it. That'll be the telltale sign, I think. Yeah.
It's having those conversations with people. That's all. That's it. And what we're saying to people, like vacant lots, for example, the last two vacant lots that sold. I was talking actually to a surveyor because we're working on another one. I would talk to one local surveyors and we're talking about them. He said how they're selling it. Said the prices are down significantly. Because the lots we're selling like in White Zone, 5 acres for
Yes.
170. Now we're selling for 100, 120, 130, somewhere in
Hmm.
there. And I said they're down that much.
Yes.
And I said they're selling, but you've got to get the price down on them because I said what people were getting in COVID. It was crazy. But these are lots we were selling in 2019 for 89,000 or 99,000. Then they went up to 200,000 with multiple offers, and now they've settled back down.
Yeah.
They are where
You know,
they should be.
there's a lot of people that were starting the process of severance too. And that's just kind of coming into the system because during COVID, everybody that had a 100-acre lot was trying to slice it and dice it because of what the prices were doing, but they didn't realize it can be a 2-year process between when I start and when I actually can sell the lot. Sometimes quicker, but it can be a long time too. So I think there's a
Depending
lot
on
of
the
people,
municipality. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, out on this side of Perry Sound District, if you can do it in a year and a half, you're doing pretty good. But we were bottlenecked with surveyors and we're not now. It was hard. The bottleneck was the surveyor because they were so backed up. But now that that's kind of slowed down, that's not quite as challenging.
Yeah.
Here on this side, we haven't got planners. That's our small townships on the east side of the district don't have their own planners. They only meet once a month.
Yeah. That's the
So
problem.
it's a lot longer process than a town that can just stamp it and go. Yeah.
Yeah. But the surveyors aren't as busy. Like I talked to Pollock this morning, Darren Walker, and
Yeah.
he said, like, we're busy, but if we're going to do this survey for your client, better to do it now than when we get, when the snow's gone. I'm going, absolutely.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I said, the thing is, if we get the survey done, it's a small township. It's going to take some time to get the proverbial deed stamp to get those lots created. He kind of chuckled, like, yeah, like it's just, and you don't want that happening in the summertime, and sometimes half the municipal staffs are on holidays, so things just take a while.
Life in small towns. Life in small towns.
And and we deal with this stuff often, so we kind of are able to kind of direct people along. What do you think about residential properties getting off the waterfront?
Yeah, they seem to be still, the demand side of that's pretty good. Here too, that's definitely the inventory bottleneck here. The supply of decent houses in that, like in this side of the district, it's 400 to 600 is the sweet spot. Very few, very, very few. And I think COVID brought a lot of the inventory forward. People that were just pondering selling ended up selling because the prices were so good. So there's not nearly as many people keen to sell. There's still a demand for sure. Absolutely. Days of market around here are up as well, though, for homes. Not like waterfront.
We had, and we were talking about the pricing down, those, whatever percent they are. That's mostly for waterfront. The residentials move differently than the waterfront, the cottage market. We're down, but we're not down a huge amount. If you look at the average house in Perry Sound, I think the number was down about 10% from the peak. So it's not down a huge amount. But we had an open house last weekend. We had 13 or 14 people show up for an open house in 2 hours.
Wow.
So there's certainly buyers out there. A lot of young people, like 20-year-olds starting off looking at houses. And
still half the price of Barrie.
Still have the price of Barrie. Absolutely. Yeah. It's a great place to live. If you're you work from home or you're a contractor or something like that, it's a great place to live and to raise a family. But I think that Marco will be fine. We did see a kind of a glut of condos over here sitting on the market. Yeah. When we had that one condo, the breakers open up and a lot of people bought them. Some of those came back on the market. So we had a little bit, but we just had one sell last week. We're starting to see them sell a bit. That hopefully will kind of clear out. And there's some of the stuff, again, you have to look at some of the pricing on some of them too. You shouldn't have to pay $800,000 for a 2-bedroom condo in Perry Sound.
What would that have been worth pre-COVID?
Fours with a view of the water. Yeah, with a view of the water. But people pay all sorts of pricing for these things, and so when they're coming back and they're trying to get their money back, and so. But it's a tough nut, and it's one thing we have had in abundance. If you're looking for a house out in the country with 5 acres, there's nothing. We have nothing like that right now.
Yeah, that's probably the most in-demand thing this side of the district right now. A home with acreage. I mean, it's hold on really, really well, surprisingly so. Yeah. But I think it's people's dream. They sell their place in Thornhill or Markham, and they wanted a big garden, a bit of acreage for the dog to run around, and it's a lot of people's dream to have some acreage. So
And people are still moving up. And if you're moving up from the city of Toronto and you're not selling a condo right now, the market down there, from what I'm under, from my peeps that I talked to, is very good.
yeah,
Everybody knows the house back about 3 weeks ago in Mississauga that sold with 85 offers in Erin Mills.
yeah,
It was
yeah.
silly price probably to begin with, but still 85 offers. And so I don't think we're going to see that come up. We're going to see that type of market up here. But I think what happens is I think these markets kind of spread. I always think these things get seeded in the city,
Yeah.
in the Toronto area, and kind of radiate out from there. Talking to one of my Barrie peeps, market's getting busier, better there.
Hmm.
Barrie for a long time has been not
Rough.
good,
Yeah.
way oversold during COVID. Pricing had to come down substantially to get these properties moved, but it's hitting that equilibrium now where they're
Yeah.
starting to move. So it's just I'm saying we're going to be busy. How busy? We're busy last year, except for the summertime. I think last summer everybody was in Europe. All the Canadians traveled. So we had a really, really slow summer. And I think that's one of the reasons why. People on the lakes are saying there's nobody here.
We'll have to have a chat in 3 months and see how it kind of shook down. Yeah.
What about the Airbnb situation? You've got a bit of a unique situation over in Magnetawan. Do you want to talk to that a little bit?
Yeah, and I think from what I understand that a lot of townships are going to mimic, of all things, the Magnetawan situation. So for Airbnbs, it's a draw. So they've said, okay, we only want X number of Airbnbs within our township limits, and they've got a point system. So you can be one of the chosen ones that gets to rent on Airbnb. But if you have too many complaints, you're out. You're out of the pool, and they draw the next one. Uh, Interestingly enough, I heard that Lake of Bays is going to adopt a similar system. They want to put a cap on it, and some of the townships in the Kawarthas are going to do the same thing. They want to do a cap on the number of Airbnbs within a given area, and that's really tough for people, because how do you budget if you're counting on Airbnb to help float your costs of that cottage, but you don't know from year to year if you're going to have a license to do it? That's
There
tough.
was There was a really good friend of mine, Develle Morrison in Toronto. She does a real estate podcast. She had Ben Mulroney on, I think it was earlier this week, and they're talking about in Muskoka with short-term rentals. And she brought up a really good point, and it's one that I really bring up, is where cottaging's really become the realm of the wealthy. And it's unfortunate, and her argument was, with talking to Ben Mulroney, was that this is one opportunity for people to actually experience cottage life a bit as rented, because you can't afford it anymore if you're working, I don't know, like with a lot of middle income jobs. It's got too
Yes.
expensive.
Isn't that sad? That's a sad reflection on the state of our country in some respects, because it'll create a larger divide, because the people that have the cottages will be able to make money on the cottages, and the divide will get wider and wider. So it's
Yeah,
a lot of questions with not a lot of answers at this point in time.
I think the government, if you look at the province, I think at some point, we should be talking to maybe, our MPP Graydon Smith, and other opportunities for people to be able to enjoy this area, in Cottage Country, kind of from here over to Bancroft and, north of Kingston,
Yeah.
because there have to be other areas where they can look at, expanding provincial parks. And I know the parks over here just get, especially Kilbear, that they're just overflowing in the summertime. They can't take any more people. And Kilbear is on a point. It's like you can take over more land and expand it. But
Yeah.
there have to be some discussions at some point, because I find it really discouraging that a lot of people have been priced out of it. And there's
Oh
no
yeah.
mom and pop cottage resorts anymore. The trailer
Oh
resorts all here are for the most part are they don't have transients, so they just want year round people. So that's
yeah.
kind of one of the only ways for people to even get to enjoy the water is go up to River Lake on Manitowoc or Lakeside down Blue Lake Road or whatever. But
Yeah.
even those are there's not like when we were kids. There was
They're
lots of
everywhere.
them. Now, no, there's not a lot.
No, no, it's sad. I don't know. I don't know what the answer is, but the powers that be need to pay attention.
Well, I don't have the answers either, but I think we need to have the discussions
Yeah, yeah.
at
Um,
all, from the municipal level right up through the province, maybe, including the feds, because I
yeah,
think it's
yeah.
it's just something not a lot of people talk about. But back when I started in the business, we used to sell people that worked at Stelco and Ford and Oakville and that, and those guys, a lot of them can't afford it anymore. Can't afford to
No,
live in Toronto either. But
no. You're absolutely right. Absolutely right. So,
so, but anyways, it's
yeah.
all it's all fun and games until somebody loses an eye with these things. So, any other plans for you as far as what you're going to be doing business wise in 2024?
Not much different than 2023, really. I think it'll be, slow and steady for us. And yeah, hopefully there's a turnaround at some point in time. Like I say, I think it'll be later on in the year. When we go down to the Cottage Life Show, it'll be interesting to see what the vibe is down there. That's going to be a great, window into the
Yeah,
psyche of both the buyer and the seller. You know, we you and I will be paying as much attention to the feeling out there as anything else, I think, to try to gauge things.
and that's only 4 weeks away. That's coming up quick.
Yeah, yeah. So,
So
and then
yeah,
you get
it'll
to
it'll
talk to other agents there, and you get a really good idea of what the whole cottage country is like by talking to other brokers and agents and kind of getting a feel.
But that's something we've missed because I haven't done the show. I know our office did it last year. I was in Europe when they did it, so I didn't get to participate. But 2019.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
So it's been 5 years. Yeah, a
well,
little
I
less
guess
a little
we're
less
going
gray
down.
in the beard back then when we had it.
Yep.
But it'll be interesting. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what buyers are saying because, like I was saying to you, we did a mail out to 200, I think it was 40 people in our database recently,
Yeah.
and most of them are still in the market. Like it was
Hmm.
interesting. The
Yeah.
response we got back, like about 60%. Yeah, we're still looking.
Yeah.
And some bought in other areas, other ones aren't looking anymore. So there's still people there, and I think it's just a matter of bringing a lot of the buyers from the sidelines in, and making sure the properties that people really, really want to sell, like they're, as opposed to we'll sell if we get our price,
Yeah. Yeah.
represent the inventory of cottages we have this year, and the same with homes. Like it's just,
Hmm.
price it right, do
Yep.
it,
Exactly.
and work with local realtors. This is kind of our mantra.
And that's right.
Yeah. Well, good. So if people want to find out more about you and what you do, where can they find you?
I guess one of the websites would make the most sense. Findingyourmuskoka.ca, I guess, would probably be the go-to for that. Yeah, I'll be
And
doing
and if
those.
you
Go ahead.
no, and if you want to read John's blog and some of his opinions on the market, and we have slightly different markets, we have slightly different opinions, and that's a nice thing. You can have different opinions on things, and sometimes you just
Yeah,
just get along.
without knife fight. That's great. Yeah,
Without a knife fight. I know. It's just like, yeah,
yeah,
whatever. It's just things are just so with social media and all that. It's always left versus right and black
yeah,
versus blue, and oh my god, it's crazy. And sometimes you could just agree and disagree on stuff and not
yep.
have to kill each other. So check out John's information if you're looking for real estate. Certainly in the Magneto, Magwen into the Muskoka area. Certainly check out John himself. I've known this guy for a long time from when he ran Fincham's feeds, and gas station in Pearsall. I used to get my gas from him many years ago. So,
There you go.
and we need to
Good
get
stuff.
together for dinner too, soon
Sounds
too,
good. Say hi to
before
Kim.
we get too old. I will. You say hi to Sue. We'll talk to you later.
Okay, take care.
Okay, bye.